Well, what an honor it is to have Neil Spooner on the show today. And we came out to Donaldson. He came visiting South Africa. Well, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to say welcome on the show, but it's sort of me being on your show in your area. So it's sort of the other way around.
Well, welcome to ours as well.
Thank you, and thanks for having us.
No problem. No problem.
That's great. You've been to South Africa a number of times. How many times have you been here?
So this is my fifth time from a fishing point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually fished here before. I came and did some work with Gilbert, visiting some tackle shops, and we dropped in here for a night's fishing. Blimey, that was 6 years ago. But we've been to Clip Copy, we've been to Dawn Dry. I fished Anthony. He's got a lake called Wemmerpan. I fished that when we came out just on like a work trip.
Urban venue.
And that was he picked me up at 11 o'clock at the hotel at night, and we fished right through until I had to get back on the plane at about 4 o'clock the following afternoon. So I've had a couple of trips where you're in and out almost here for 2 or 3 nights at a time, and then a couple of the filming trips have been longer. We've done the first time we came was with a monster carp when Ali was still with us, and we fished Dawn Dry. But then we flew to Cape Town and did the shark diving as well to end the trip. And then the last time, I think it was 2023, and we had almost 2 weeks at Clip Copy Dam.
That was quite a nice shoot that you had.
Well, that was where we were supposed to film for the first monster carp. But when we landed, there was like a big weather front had moved in, and trees were being uprooted, so it just wasn't safe enough. So we had to go to Plan B. So it was nice to exact some revenge. We wanted a 40-pounder. We both left.
And your total experience of South Africa as a country, what is your feeling about that?
Yeah, me and Tom, we both love it because you sort of get here from a fishing point of view. We're doing very similar things that we'd be doing back home. The rigs are the same, the lead setups are the same, the boat element's a little bit different, but that aside, it's the whole adventure that South Africa brings compared to England. If you're fishing in England, you might have a dog or a cat walk into you, or a fox. Here, who knows what it might be. When we fished at Dawn Dry, we had baboons in the swim. Just further up there with giraffe walking around, and that element you just don't get in the UK.
Yeah.
So it's that whole sense of adventure.
Just a bit different.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think about the fisheries that we have, the type of waters? What do you think about that? Lots
of the waters in the UK are quite small, on average. Some of the lakes might be 3 acres, they might be 50 acres, but when you come out here and you're fishing some of the really vast dams, for one, you've got this big expanse of water, but everything feels so wild as well. I think that's part of where we are. But you've got other things going on over here that we don't have. The carp in the UK are protected is perhaps the wrong word, but we treat them like pets. We know their names, we know the ones we're trying to catch. But when you come out here, you've got a very different lifestyle going on. You've got that element of carp anglers exactly the same as us, but you've also got other people that are just trying to survive. So if they catch a carp, they might be going into the to feed their family, as opposed to having a picture and put back in. So there's always that sense of you never quite know what's going to be on the end when you pick the rod up, and that's exciting.
Which one of the South African venues are your favourite?
I think it's got to be Clip Copy, because we weren't far from Kruger. You really felt like you were out in the wilds, and we knew the size of the carp that the venue held, and we were lucky enough to catch some really nice carp. This has got bigger carp in, I think, but that was just a bit vaster and just a bit more of an adventure.
Something else.
Yeah. But I've not been here and fished a venue I haven't liked. I want to point that out. Everywhere I've been is great.
Well, now my question is, which venue in South Africa would you still like to fish?
So when I first started carp fishing back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a dam that the media were all over called Clisiri, and it's not. I know that it had quite a big fish kill, so a lot of those big ones that were in there that sort of made the English come for that adventure are no longer there. But when we were travelling here yesterday, Gilbert mentioned that they're now just getting up to 30 pound again. So that is a venue that I'd still at some point in the future like to visit.
Okay, well, that's great. What is your biggest fish in South Africa?
41 pound 2 ounces from Clip Copy. Well, the biggest carp.
Yeah.
I did catch a when I was on Wemmer, I did catch a
grass carp.
Yeah, 56 pound 12, I think it was.
Yes.
Massive, absolutely huge thing.
But those are big, eh?
Yeah, really big. And they don't really fight too much until you get them in the net.
And then they go crazy.
Yeah, and this one did as well. But yeah, from a carp point of view, 41 too.
Do you know what the biggest carp is in South Africa that has been caught here lately?
I've heard rumours of a 72 pound common getting caught from a venue.
Yes.
But
yes.
That's an impressive for anywhere in the world.
33.2 kilograms. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's impressive wherever you are in the world. But again, knowing that's one of the biggest carp in the country, if you catch something like that when you come to South Africa, that is truly special.
Do you know who caught that?
No. You're going to tell me.
A guy called Neil.
Really?
Do you think that's coincidence?
Well, maybe yes. But really?
Yeah, Neil could see it.
Wow.
Yeah, I had him on the show.
Did you?
Yeah, he said
that's enormous.
Yeah, it's enormous. And the venue that he fished doesn't have a lot of fish.
No.
And he spent like 12 sessions there, and he caught 2 fish.
Really?
8 kilo and a 32 kilo.
Yeah, it's all overgrown, isn't it? It's very wild.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the sort of adventure that we strive to find. But I also believe that in that venue there's still big crocodiles, hippos, and whilst I think it's incredible that people are going to have a go, I would have in my mind that I've got a young family at home. And what if things went wrong? Fishing's great, but I'm not sure it's quite worth that risk for me personally.
Yeah.
But fair play to the guys that are getting out there and having a go.
Let's talk about that part of it. Your fishing career. When did that passion for fishing, and when did you start fishing?
Yeah, quite a young age. I was probably 11, and I can remember it clearly. I lived with my mum. We lived like on a main road, and I remember being outside. I think we were washing her car, and my cousin, who was only a little bit older than me, he sort of stopped. He was on his bike, and he had a fishing rod strapped to the crossbar. He had a rucksack on, and I had to beg and plead my mum to let me go with him. But got on my bike. We biked 8 miles to get to a small canal, and basically we sat under a bridge in the pouring rain all day. Didn't get a bite, but straight away I knew I wanted to go again. And I think it was probably another couple of weeks before I went again. And my first fish was I don't know if it's a species you have out in Africa, it's called a ruff.
Yeah, I know a ruff.
Yeah,
we caught it in Europe, yeah.
Okay, so it's got a dorsal, same as a perch, quite an aggressive little fish, but turns out they were in there in abundance. So I caught loads of them to begin with, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter if I caught or not. It was just being by the water's edge and just fishing. So
when was the time where you decided carp fishing was for you, and do you only do carp fishing, or is there other facets and fish that you also catch?
So I got a job working in a fishing tackle shop when I was 16, and maybe 17, that sort of age anyway. And I'd always just been a general course angler, fished a few matches like yourself, not to your level, but fished a few matches, and again just enjoyed being out. But when you work in a tackle shop, your eyes are opened up to many different types of angling, whether it was sea fishing, fly fishing, lure fishing. All of a sudden I was like a sponge. I could learn all of these different methods. I wasn't doing much, but anytime someone would come into the shop, I was grilling them for information. Yeah. And a guy that I got to know really well, a guy called Chris, took me out carp fishing. I'd always laughed at it. The thought of sitting there waiting for a bite alarm to tell me when I had a fish on just seemed alien. But the first time...
There's no float, there's no tip, there's nothing.
We were making tea, cooking food, and get the odd little bleak. But when I got my first full-blooded run, that was it.
Is it like a one-toner?
Yeah, I sold all of my kit to buy carp stuff. And pretty much since then, I wouldn't say I've fished for carp exclusively. I still enjoy a bit of perch fishing every now and then. And all of my children, I've taken them, whip fishing and feeder fishing. I sort of wanted them, if they were going to get into it, I didn't want them to come straight in at carp fishing. I wanted them to learn the art of watching a float go under or watching a quiver tip go round. Yeah. Just enjoy every species, not just carp.
Your family and fishing, do they fish? You only came out now, and I think your son had a birthday on Monday or something.
Yes, he did. Yeah, my eldest is now 17. So they've all been introduced fishing at a very early age. They'd all done a night on a bed shed before they were 2. So my wife was never quite sure about it, but they were perfectly safe. they've all caught nice fish over the years. My eldest has caught them to over 40 pound in Europe, and both the younger ones have had UK 20 pounders. But football took over. If I'm honest, they all play football, and where we used to, of a weekend, you know, we'd find a few hours to go fishing. Now we've got 3 lots of training on a Saturday, often 3 matches on a Sunday, so it's very difficult. But my eldest, who's now stopped playing football, wants to go carp fishing again. So this
they always come back.
Yeah, and that's what I've said to him. Like, I'm never going to force them to go, because I think if you force it, you could push them away forever.
Yes,
but he now wants to come back again, which is great.
And your wife, does she fish?
So she'd... I took her one try. I'll be honest, I'd always say, when I first got with my wife many years ago, fishing was my thing, but she'd always ask to come along. So I remember waking up one February morning, it was freezing cold, and I thought, if I take her today, she won't want to come again. And we went there, and I managed to catch the second biggest fish in the lake, 25 pound. It was this massive long common, and I thought that was it. She's going to want to come every week, but no, she's been a few times, and as the children started to enjoy it, if she, like any parents, if you see your children happy, you're happy.
Yeah.
So when I told her how much the children were enjoying it, she started to come along, and I did eventually get her to play a couple of carp in and touch and hold a carp. That was the big thing for her. She's not very outdoorsy. She's not into creepy crawlies and bugs, but yeah, she's held a carp and played a couple in.
So from the family point of view, did you integrate your family into fishing, or the other way around? Or?
No, I very much integrated them into it. I got into it quite early, at sort of 11, but I wanted to get I wanted them to grow up knowing what I did. You know, it was important for me, because I was already doing it as my job.
Yeah.
So I wanted them to understand the passion for it. So no, we've had many a days out when they were all very young, running. We had a very special lake that we used to fish, where the owner was very family friendly. So he understood that children could get bored quite quickly, so he almost had an area like a green where they could go and kick a ball about if they got bored of the fishing for a bit, and they could just drop in, drop out. We had some great days out there.
Talking about your job, so it's, many people always say, oh, it's nice if you have fishing as a job, and but it's got its challenges as well.
Yeah, it has. I mean, fishing is a part of my job, but my role is sales director. You know, pushing the sales further afield. Hence why we've made the trip out here again with the Kaizen Green range, because they're new. It's been difficult to get them into the country last year because we didn't have enough stock. So we wanted to come out and make a big deal of that, to grow the brand, grow the range, but to grow the countries that we're represented in. The guys at Kingfisher and Gilbert do a great job in promoting, but if we can come over and do our bit as well, that's great. But the fishing element itself, it brings with it a pressure. You know, you're spending a lot of money to make some of these shows that we make, so you've got to be catching some fish.
You've got to do well. It's not only go fishing, are you?
But
it's work.
We're never sort of, even back in the day when it was magazine features or thinking tackles, you're never really put under that you don't feel under that pressure. You know, not catching is part of fishing. You can't catch every time you go. But even last night, you know, we've been lucky enough, we've had a couple of 20 pounders, not the biggest fish in the lake, but we're off the mark. First night in, a couple of fish under your belt, and you do just feel that pressure release. You know, we're filming a vlog while we're here, so we know we've got some content already, and we'll get some more. Some bigger ones,
always. Does your job ever interfere with your fishing?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I spent, over the years, I've enjoyed targeting specific carp in the UK. And, you know, some of those challenges have taken 2 or 3 years to catch the one that you really want. There was a fish that I was trying to catch for 3 or 4 years that I never did manage, because the time that it often got caught, I'd be filming a monster carp somewhere. So I can't, if we're away for a monster carp shoot, it could be anywhere from a week to 2 weeks away. I couldn't spend that much time away from the family and then get home, say hello, and then go, right, I'm going fishing now.
let me go.
So yeah, it's had an impact on perhaps me, my own personal fishing and targeting carp I want, but it doesn't really bother me. I'm still as happy now just to have the rods out somewhere, whether it's targeting a carp I want, sitting here, or on a lake I don't know too much about, just to get a job done for the company. If I'm fishing, I'm still fishing, you know.
What is the thing about carp fishing that you love the most? If you can single out one thing.
It's the bite. It's always been the bite, whether it's watching a carp pick a rig up in the edge, whether it's the bite alarm going, whether we do a lot of, or I do a lot of surface fishing back home where you get the carp eating off the surface,
Yes.
whether it's watching them take your hook bait, it's that bite.
That's the adrenaline moment.
Yeah, that second you know you've outwitted it, you've done your bit. That's always been the bit for me.
Is there a pet beef, something that you hate about carp fishing?
Not really. The only thing it is not just in carp fishing, it's life in general. It's negativity. You know, if we put something out, we know we'll go away, we film a really nice film or a short version film, whatever it might be, and you'll post that up, and a couple of the comments will always be, "It's all right for you. You get your bait. You've got this. You've got that." There's always a reason you've done well, not that you've just had a good trip, and you just learn to switch off from that. There's far more people that enjoy the content that we produce than those that just want to hate on it. But negativity, the stuff, it's bad in anything, you know.
Yeah, that's the part that you don't like.
Yeah.
What is your most memorable catch ever?
It has to be the one bite I had from St. Cassian. So again, much like when I first started carp fishing, I was reading about the dam over here, Classerie. The other lake I'd read a lot about was Cassian down in the south of France. Back in the 80s, you know, it did a massive carp of over 70 pound, and after that, everyone that I was reading about, be it Rob Hughes, Tim Paisley, Rod Hutchinson, all of those anglers were making that pilgrimage down to the south of France to catch these ridiculous sized carp. So when Ali said we were going to film a monster carp there, I was like, oh my God, we're going to be going to St. Cassian. Got into the swim called Ellis Point that Kevin Ellis caught I think it was a 76 pounder in 1986. It was a world record, unheard of, a carp of this size. And I was standing in the swim, and I remember doing a bit to camera saying, I'm on the swim that Kevin Ellis caught that 70 pounder. I'm saying, I'm not going to catch a 70, but just to get a bite from here would be amazing. But either the following day or the day after, the first 4 days fishing we had, I had one bite, and it was 71 pounds worth.
Yes.
The biggest fish in the lake, and that's a 1,200 acre dam. But that fish could have been 30 pound. Just to catch one from there was enough. But to be fortunate enough to catch the probably the biggest fish in there, that capture. I've been fortunate enough to catch a bigger fish since, but it still won't stand up to the memory that carp has
It's
given me.
that one that you will always remember.
Yeah, definitely.
What is your biggest carp ever?
Biggest carp ever is 72 pound 15 ounces from Croatia, a lake called Zajaki. And funnily enough, where we're out in Africa for a few days here, we're going straight to that lake after this for 3 more nights to do the same sort of event out there, and we're back on that lake. So Dovey's caught one bigger from me from there. He's had on that trip he had a 74.5, so he's got the bigger out of the two of us. So the ultimate dream is to get one. If it's 74 pounds 6 ounces, that'll do.
just
to beat him.
Now, when you catch a lot of big fish, you also sometimes lose some big fish.
I do.
Is there one that is spooking you, that you get nightmares about?
So the only
that
one
you lost.
the only one that I can say for definite that I lost a big fish, it was a long time ago. Before I worked for Corda, I was fishing a lake called Wivenhoe Match Pit, and I could walk to the lake from my house. And I had a bite early one morning, and I was playing it in, and the big one in there, it was probably at the time 37, 38 pound. By far it was a PB for me then. And I've hooked this fish, it's got in and out of lots of weed beds, and I saw this big brown fish roll, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I know what one that is. And it got tangled up in my other line, and because I was fishing really tight lines, my line got cut through because of my other fishing line, and it just all went slack. And that's the one that still I try not to, anywhere we go, if I lose a fish, I try not to tell myself how big it might have been, but that one I saw it.
Yeah, it's that one that you see.
Exactly.
And weed beds are.
The weed was savage as well.
Yes, it's terrible. My wife and I fished a venue in Belgium.
Okay.
And she also hooked up on a big fish. We estimated 25 kilos.
Oh wow.
And she had it in and out the weed bed, and we saw it 3 times.
Oh. Is this from the bank or from the boat?
From the bank.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when it went in there again, she lost it. But
it's heartbreaking.
It was like 40 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that haunts you, eh?
It does.
When preparing for a session, what is the first thing that you do?
If it's in the UK, the kit is normally ready to go. You've got your standard kit honed. You know exactly what you're doing. You're often going to the same lake with a bit of regularity. So it's almost like it's in my garage on the barrow. It's just a case of putting the barrow into the back of the van. For some of these trips, you've got to prepare a little bit more. You've got to check things through a bit more. So spare spools for one. I've always got spools with mono on, and because of the fish I'm doing here, spools with braid on. Make sure I've got plenty of spare hooks. Always like to bring a variety of hook baits, and it's just going through that sort of regimental checklist to make sure that you're not going to get caught out. We're a little bit fortunate when we come on this sort of trip that we've got guys around us that are also carp anglers, that if we have forgotten something,
you've got some backup.
Yeah, but it's just working through that checklist really.
Going to a new venue, how much research, what do you put into research, and what are the type of things that you are researching?
Okay, so we've often got guys on the ground wherever we're going to, be it for a monster carp or a thinking tackle. We'll have people that know the venue, so we'll drill them. One of the important things is the other species that are in there. You know, if there's lots of silverfish, lots of catfish, we know that we probably can't get away with fishmeal boilies or lots of particle. So you're trying to get your bait approach right from the get-go. So is it going to be tiger nuts? Is it going to be big boilies? Do we need hardened hook baits? Is there a particular flavour that lots get caught on? Is there a particular colour that things get caught on? Is there areas of the lake that tend to do a lot of the fish? So you're building a mental picture of the lake before you get there, and then you sort of feel like you've done a lot of the groundwork before you turn up. Once you turn up, it's still a case of angling as you normally would, looking for signs of fish, looking where they're showing, trying to get into the best area for the start of that trip. But the approach itself, it's then down to how we'd angle anywhere in the world. Often you'd find us, spotting 3 rods on a spot is quite a common way for us to fish in the UK, and that's how we fish a lot when we go away. We're not here because it is a bit different, but we knew that before.
You've almost answered the next question, is how do you pick a spot? So I'm just going to ask one question on that. When picking a spot, what is the most important variable for you?
So we tend to spend a lot of time looking for either the firmest or the cleanest area out in the lake. If you're fishing a particularly weedy venue, you're looking for those clearer areas amongst it. Or if you're faced with something like this where it's pretty much flat, the odd up and down open water, you're looking for a firm bottom, maybe a bit of structure. There might be plateaus or bars, something that stands out from the norm. So if you're in a very, very silty lake, you're looking for a firmer patch. If you're in a lake that's gravel or clay, perhaps you're looking for the softer spot, something that's a little bit different to everything else around it.
Okay, so a little bit of different.
Yeah, exactly.
Structure, how important is structure to?
I think again it depends on the venue and some of the waters we've fished on some of these bigger, vaster waters. Some of the lakes we've fished in the past. If you've got lots and lots of depths I remember one lake in particular, Bin El Wadan in Morocco. Tom had first choice to swim, and you've got acres and acres and acres of sort of 8 to 9 metres of depth, and Dovey had in the swim that he picked this massive plateau that came up about 200 yards out in the lake, and you just knew that carp were going to be using that like a roundabout, and so it proved. Dovey's very good at feature finding. He's very good at spending a lot of time with the echo or with a marker float, finding the exact spot he wants to be fishing on, and then he'll be consistently good on that spot for the duration of the trip, and it always comes good for it.
Oh, well, that's great. Okay, the last question is, and you said you don't like negativity, but I must ask this question. What is the worst session that you ever had that you wanted to forget?
I might have to think here. They're all so good normally. Worst session. I don't know about worst or toughest maybe. Tough sessions are different from bad ones. I had a tough session with Tom. We both had a tough session at Lac de Der, Chanticoq in France. Again, 15,000 acres. We were there in the spring, and Tom had the only bite between us in the best part of 2 weeks fishing. But that one I don't see that as a bad trip. We knew it was going to be tough. We see that as we've conquered it because we managed to get a bite. Fished a lake called Carp Lantis on a monster carp. I'd won the swim choice, and I think I lost 8 carp on the trot. And I was close to tears at one point. I played a carp all the way in, around some snags, got it to within netting distance, and that one came off as well. And I just didn't know what I was going to do next. It just felt like everything that I touched was going to fall off. But again, that trip came round in the end. I managed to sneak my rods out. I left them out a little bit longer than I was meant to. We were meant to strictly be reeled in by 8 o'clock in the morning. And at 5 to 9, I had a bite and I had a 50-pounder.
Yes.
So even that one turned a positive in the end. I try not to dwell on the negatives, because like I said to you, I'm still fishing.
But there's always that one session that you say,
exactly.
you want to forget.
Yeah.
Well, Neil, thank you so much. It was great. It was been an honor to speak to you and to get to know you a little bit. And I hope our viewers enjoyed it. So thank you for watching.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you.